Hi everyone, welcome to another macro photography video. Today I'm out for a morning walk. It's around 7 in the morning, and I thought I would talk to you a little bit about how I look for and find insects and spiders for macro photography and other sorts of subjects as well. And while it is a lovely sunny day, as you can see, I first want to have a look around the more shady areas because since it's in the morning and we had quite a cold night, the sun hasn't been shining on these areas, which means that it's still quite cool and some of the insects might not have warmed up yet, which means that they're fairly still, and that gives me a better opportunity to photograph them. When you're looking for subjects on any sort of meadow, it can be a little bit hard to know where to start to look for insects in the grass and the plants. And even though this is quite a small meadow, it's already hard to know where I should really look to find something. And this is because, obviously, the insects are really tiny compared to the entire meadow, compared to any blade of grass, any plant that they might be sitting on. So what I usually do is, kind of like now, just walk along and scan along the ground and see what I see anything that doesn't really fit with the normal texture, the patterns of the meadow, so anything that breaks this green grass pattern. And when I see something, I'll have a closer look, and maybe it's an insect. Now, this is something that obviously takes a lot of practice and comes also with the experience of knowing an area very well, because I really know the plants that are here and I can tell when something doesn't quite look right. Often that'll just be a piece of dirt or a bit of dead leaf, but sometimes it is an insect or a spider or something worth getting a closer photo of. One place I often seem to find quite a few interesting insects is on the branches of oak trees. There's a lot of insects that feed on oak leaves or create galls or are in some other way associated with oak. And just scanning this branch here, I can already see quite a few interesting things. There are a lot of tiny little leaf mines, which I don't think make the most interesting photo, but they're definitely interesting species. And here I've found quite a cool looking caterpillar, which I think I should be able to photograph. What's really interesting here, if you look at it up from above, it looks quite interesting and spiny, but you don't see the head, so it probably wouldn't make for the most interesting picture. But if I turn the leaf around, you can still see the face and head of the caterpillar, and you can also see the section of the leaf which it is already eaten away. And I think that that makes for quite an interesting composition. Also right here you can see there is a tiny weevil on the underside of that same leaf. To photograph this caterpillar, I'm going to use the fastest shutter speed I can get, which is 1/250th of a second, and point the camera towards the ground so that the background is as far away and as dark as possible. And this is just to make sure that I get a really completely dark black background, because in this case I think that that will really help isolate the subject in the leaf. Now, it's obviously not just oak trees. I find that with just about any tree growing sort of on the edge of a forest and a meadow, there are lots of things that can be found. For example, on this dogwood, I've found a few interesting beetles, including a darkling beetle I don't think I've photographed, and a interesting looking soldier beetle. So I'm going to start with the darkling beetle and just try and get a portrait of this one. Now this next spot to look for pollinators and other insects and things that feed on these insects and pollinators is maybe the most obvious. I don't think I need to mention it in this video, but that is looking on flowers. And right now at this time of the year, there are hardly any plants in bloom here, but the first thing I've been able to find is this eastern groundsel here. Now there aren't a lot of insects on here. There's these true bugs. I'm not sure exactly what they're called, and I don't think I can get any focus stacks of these, but still cool to show you. And when it is a little bit warmer and when there's more things in bloom, there are so many insects that can be found on flowers that make for really interesting macro photos. I've been looking around in this patch of ferns, mostly just because I thought that an insect sitting on a fern would make for quite an interesting composition with all the repeating patterns of the fronds of the fern. And I've already found one cool insect, which is a dance fly in the genus Empis. And I'm just going to go for a wider shot here to get some of the context of where it is sitting with the fern, and maybe actually open up my shutter speed or use a slower shutter speed to get a little bit of color, a little bit of the ferns in the background as well. And then just go for a stack like this. Now, obviously the things I've talked about in this video are very particular examples for the kind of habitat, the area that I'm in right now, and it varies a lot depending on the habitat and landscape you're in and what kind of subjects you're looking for. For example, if you're in a more dry, sandy area looking for spiders or other ground-dwelling insects, then it's obviously makes sense to more scan on the ground in the sand and try and see any movement there. Or if you're in a more man-made habitat, maybe in kind of a farmland or meadow area where there are old wooden fence posts, that is a great spot to find insects or spiders. But I think in general, if you're not looking for a very particular target species, if you're more broadly going through a habitat and seeing what you can find, this concept of looking for things that kind of break the pattern, that don't quite fit in, whether it's a dark spot on a leaf or something moving a little bit on the forest floor, is a good way to describe this way of seeing that we get used to as macro photographers. And this is really something that develops naturally and becomes sort of subconscious with experience. But I hope I was able to explain it in a way that makes sense, especially to those who are maybe a bit less experienced with macro photography. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you have any other questions, and thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.